everybody. For today's lesson, we're going to be covering pre-flight preparation, cross-country flight planning. So the first thing that I got told whenever I started any IFR flight planning is check the weather. We need to know the weather here, the weather there, the weather along, and what the weather is going to be like throughout the duration of the flight. Something the Instrument Flying Handbook states is that you have different resources. You have your AIM, you have your airport facility directories, POHAFM, notices to airmen, all that, just general flight planning resources, but you also have IFR en route, and you have your weather, your different weather sources that you can use. For flight, let's say we want to do any trip. I have one here that I used a while ago. From Bakersfield to Visalia, this aircraft, we actually flew this, filed, everything like that, so it's going to be the route, however you want to do it, your departure, your en route, which is going to be how you're going to get there, and then your actual landing from there. So, with our IFR flight plan, we decided to leave Bakersfield on the Oildale 1 departure, joining Shafter, going along the Thule up towards Fresno, and we stopped at Extra. We had the mark right there. Given that it was VFR conditions, you can descend from an MEA in VFR conditions to an airport as long as you're in IFR. Other than that, then we'd have to stop at a specific point, actually join in the approach. This one, we still left the MEA, but we went to go vectors for the nearest approach and then shot the approach in. So your main job is just figuring out the weather, actually filing it, which with ForeFlight, again, a lot easier. All this is optional, but you want your altitude, how you're flying, the route, your aircraft, destination, departure, alternate if it's required, given the IFR rules. So it is 1 hour before, 1 hour after, ceilings below 2,000, visibility below 3 statute miles. You need to file that. Alternate, if weather is predicted above that, and it is above that, then you're good to go. The time, the date, and then if you have a second alternate as well. So continuing, once you get that IFR flight plan on the ground for a towered airport, they're going to go ahead, you're going to go ahead, key up, tell them you're ready for that IFR flight plan. They're going to copy it down, you're going to copy it down on your knee board. They'll either tell you as filed, as expected, whatever, or it's going to be a different approach or a different procedure if they don't like the one that, the different route if they don't like the one that you use. ForeFlight always has recommended routes from different airports. So you'll see right here from Bakersfield to Visalia, we have all these different recommended ones that have worked before. So they say, oh, this one worked over a month ago, and it got approved multiple times. So if you put this one, odds are it's going to be approved. So suggested routes are always nice. Once you get that on the ground, you'll get your route, fly it as you're told, and just do the landing. For an untowered airport, you're going to have to either dial in or pick it up in the air as well. And for pop-up IFRs, those are when you're flying VFR in VFR flight rules into IFR conditions, and you're heading towards IFR conditions, and you want to get that IFR clearance, which they'll tell you, okay, you're getting vectored, or you're going direct to this spot, and then you'll go ahead, this is your route, this is your transponder code, all that. An important thing to note is, as an IFR student, as you're learning, you need to be able to obviously fly these IFR routes, but in order to file under your name, you need to already have an IFR flight, instrument rating. Private pilots, commercial pilots, all that can't fly IFR flight plans, even if it's in VFR conditions, because they're still flying IFR rules with navigation and with ATC. So, given that, as long as you have your instrument rating, you're able to file these. If not, during your training, your instructor will oftentimes file it and put it in, or you'll fly a mock one where you're actually not filing, but still flying IFR, or like IFR rules. So continuing on, the Instrument Procedures Handbook tells you the departure procedures, how you're leaving the airport, the en route procedures, how you're going to get there, ATC reports for any issues like that, keeping in contact. We can also cover lost comms as well, which I covered before. But during your en route, if you lose comms, MEA, ABF, easiest way to remember it. Your altitude is going to be your MEA, your expected or your assigned, whichever is higher, and your route is going to be assigned, vectored, expected, filed in that order to wherever you're going. Another important part about IFR flight planning is, if you can, ensuring that you're heading towards something that will give you an arrival or heading towards a initial approach fix. That ensures that in the event of lost comms, you can at least make it towards an approach and be able to shoot that approach as expected with your ETA when you're expected to arrive, for that approach. Because again, lost comms, once you're mute, unless you can hear ATC, unless they can hear you, it's going to be hard to predict when you're going to come if you don't, when you're going to land if you don't arrive when you're expected to. When they have that expected time, he should be here 7:10. We lost comm 7:05, so we know in 5 minutes he should be right here joining the approach. Let's go ahead, clear the airport. Let's make sure he has a safe landing. So that's just a side note, but that's still part of flight planning, as well as being able to plan for these failures. So we know if we have a route that has a specific arrival or towards an initial approach fix at the very end, we know that in the event of lost comms, we planned for this and we have that approach into that airport to continue that safe landing, instead of, now we're in IFR, we don't know where we're going, we kind of got sent this direction, we're just going to fly it and just hope we can make an approach on an airport. So continuing on, it talks about the holding pattern as well, which you might encounter during your en route, or even for approaches with procedure turns. You might be doing a hold. Any missed approaches oftentimes have hold. Holds all differ. There's a whole lesson about holds. But the easiest way I learned about holds is just whether or not you're on the holding side or the non-holding side, and gauging it from there. I know if I'm on the holding side, odds are I'm going to be doing a parallel. I know if I'm on the non-holding side, odds are I'm going to be doing a teardrop. And I know if I'm behind the fix, odds are I'm joining, or if I'm joining on the inbound, odds are I'm joining direct. Once you get into the bearings, it's harder to picture it in your head. Another thing that I learned is the Practice Holds website I mentioned before. That was an amazing website that helped me during my instrument training. It helped me during my double I training. I wish I had an instrument, then I wouldn't need the second training, but that's another great website, and teaching holds can be difficult, but with time, you just pick it up and learn it. So it talks more about holding procedures, about your en route, and then approaches, compliance with standard instrument approach procedures, just how approaches are shot, why approaches matter, and obviously that we should have them for our arrival into any airport. Approaches themselves have a lot of different information. We could break this down into its own lesson, but a good thing to note is the Digital Terminal Procedures supplement. Tells you a lot of information like non-standard alternates or non-standard circling minimum or expanding circling minimums, weather changes. So if temperature is low enough, the approach altitudes can actually be different. It tells you the information like the approach sliding in, and then obviously the actual approach itself. So reading through this and just picking through everything, you'll learn a lot of information about approaches, and it's always important to have sorry, I keep going back, but it's always important to have, because FAA and Jeppesen use different charts. While Jeppesen gives good information, FAA also gives good information, but not being able to decipher either. You're just getting just enough to shoot the approach, which isn't good. You want as much information as you can, so that way when you're flying actual IFR, you know everything you need to know. You know everything you want to know, especially for coming in on an approach. And as you approach in, simply canceling your IFR flight plan either on the ground, this is more circling information. Again, that depends on your approach into the airport, but if you're doing circling minimums and how the winds are, you have different ways to fly that circling approach. So yeah, as you land, if you're at a towered airport, they'll be able to cancel your IFR flight plan and your cross-country flight plan is done. At an untowered airport, it's best to call in and let them know, landed safely, cancel that. If you don't and you land at an untowered airport, they can send a search and rescue team, assuming that you got lost somewhere along the way or assuming you didn't make it to the ground, to find out what happened. That's a whole issue in and of itself, so always make sure you call and let them know if it's not a towered airport. And yeah, other than that, just again, weather information. That's the biggest part that I want to stress, is knowing the weather, because even if it's an IFR flight plan, you still want to know whether or not the weather's good here, the weather's good on the way out, or on the way out, the weather's good where you're landing. If it's VFR day and you still want to do an IFR flight plan just to fly IFR rules, it's still good to check the weather just in case, because now you have different issues. In IFR weather, you might not deal with high temperatures, but if you're flying VFR under IFR rules, now you have to deal with high temperatures, and during an approach, high temperatures can make the plane act a lot differently than flying through actual clouds or through cold air. So yeah, cross-country flight planning, a lot to it, but the Instrument Procedures Handbook the Instrument Flying Handbook breaks it down really well. Just all the information you can get on the ground, and then as you're flying it, knowing the different phases of that IFR flight. Thank you.